Hello, everyone. Enjoy the little things in life. For one day, you may look back and realize they were the big things. Robert Brault. As we go through our everyday lives, we experience a lot of the little things in life. From someone complimenting your clothes, feeling mildly annoyed when someone else cuts you in line, to feeling happy because you scored a good grade on a test. But what do we take away from these things? Well, what we often see are inconsequential experiences, leading on to nothing more than temporary distractions or something that ruins your mood. But what most people neglect is what I want to share with you all here today, that these seemingly irrelevant events actually have huge potential to help us all grow into who we want to be. I'm sure we've all heard of the phrase, if life gives you lemons, make lemonade. But I'm willing to bet that we often have difficulty grasping how to use this broad saying. Let me be of assistance. The small things in life are the lemons, crates upon crates of lemons that are just lying there in your mind. What you need to ask yourself is, how can I make sure I only use good lemons for my lemonade and let the bad ones go? In other words, how can I differentiate beneficial from harmful influences and use those beneficial ones to help me grow? That concept is what I want to talk about here today. Every one of these small things in life, these lemons, can influence you, but are often wasted if they're ignored. Sometimes harmful if you let them all slip by, but can massively help you if you are able to choose the good ones. In order to utilize influences to their full potential, it's important to know what an influence even is. At its core, an influence is something that shapes how you feel, act, or think. It can be a broad range of things, like the simple compliment that I mentioned before. Okay, is that it? You must be wondering, if these influences seem so simple, why would I dedicate an entire TEDx talk to it? Well, the truth is, these influences are a lot more intricate than this, and it has to do with how they're made. Let me show you. Hello there, sir.
Hello,
What's your name?
my name is Mantra Vyas.
Nice to meet you. Your suit looks really great today, I must say.
Thank you so much, I appreciate it.
Where'd you get it from?
I got this from my parents actually, so yeah.
That's nice, that's nice. You felt good as I complimented you, right?
Absolutely, I loved it.
So, you see, everyone, whenever there's a simple event, like how I just gave this man a compliment about his outfit, it sticks with him. It makes him feel great. Hopefully, as his night goes on, he'll get more compliments about his outfit. Perhaps he'll get happier and happier with these compliments and dress like this more. Maybe he'll even expand this enthusiasm to things like having a fancy watch to pair the outfit with, or like someone here, bring a book to read and enjoy and pique some interest. You see how such a simple compliment turned into a huge growth moment? How saying your suit looks nice leads to so much more. That is what a simple event, what a simple influence can truly do. These small moments engrave themselves in your brain, but if you don't remember them, they will eventually be forgotten. But if you keep revisiting them, if you keep experiencing it over and over again, it eventually becomes an idea that you can use to influence yourself and to act upon. It paves the way for even more ideas similar in nature, like a dam, trickling, then flowing, then bursting as millions of gallons of water flow through. This compliment, such a small and simple thing, transformed from something of mild enjoyment to something that you grew from. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is a grand story of what an influence is. How something so tiny can lead to such a huge impact on yourself, fundamentally changing how you think and behave. Taking this idea of what the influences are in your life, it's clear to see that they are simply everywhere, from the compliments, to the everyday emotions, to even our passions and interests that prime us for growth. For me, it was using my moderate interest in history and politics, combining that with doing tiny things like watching history videos, that eventually turns into competing at Model United Nations tournaments during middle school. All of this goes to show just how these tiny things can spark huge growth, fundamentally changing who we are. Now, taking this idea of what influences are and how widespread they are, the next step is to know what beneficial versus harmful influences does for you. Beneficial influences can be a broad range of things, from supporting friends to loving family, from books about history to even Minecraft. They are things that reinforce our identities, our passions, and benefit our mindsets. They draw that clear outline of who you want to be in your mind and help you achieve that goal. Think about being influenced into new diets. My example with history and MUN. Or something like using a love of nature and biology and transforming that into a wholesome activity like nature biking. Sometimes, however, the small things in life can leave us feeling frustrated, feeling upset, or simply experiencing a negative feeling. These events are usually irrelevant by themselves, but if we brood on them, if we let them grow, they eventually turn into harmful influences. Harmful influences distract you from what you want and keep you trapped in the short term. Think of them as a dull pencil that blurs the outline of your improved future self. They ruin your mood or destroy your productivity. Like doom scrolling to procrastinate a project or getting angry because someone else cut you off in traffic. These sort of small, irritating events are always present in our lives, but that's not the major problem. The major problem is how we interpret them, how sometimes we respond harmfully, how we act upon these things more and more, transforming them into actual harmful influences. These harmful influences entice us with lazy behaviors like doom scrolling, or simply make us lose focus and control, like in the numerous cases of road rage. In any case, the overall changes they bring are only negative. The essence of these influences, of these tiny things shaping who we are, is that we have to act on them. And as we all want to do, we want to act on the beneficial influences in life to help us all grow. So, how do we distinguish them? Well, as I've said before, beneficial influences augment your values and your future self. So ask, how is this going to help me grow? Do I learn something new about myself? If this influence completely defined who I am, would I be happy with it? These are the questions you have to ask yourself in order to see if you would be completely fine if it took over who you are. Because, as we've seen, influences are that potent. Starting with these questions and analyzing what already influences you is something that can be done easily by just asking if you'd be happy if it completely defined who you are. But distinguishing what influences are and what influences you want to put in your mind is only half the battle. The other half is actually using those influences to cultivate the beneficial ones and cut out the harmful ones. And to see that, let's take a stroll in the park. In the 1970s, experiments in addiction were underway, with one of them being called Rat Park. The concept of this experiment was simple. Have a rat in a cage, with one water source laced with drugs and one water source being regular. What would the rats choose? Well, in response to that question, researchers found that the rats just almost always overdosed and died. But a researcher named Bruce K. Alexander comes along and then asks, well, what if we gave these rats tunnels to exercise? Well, how about cheese to eat? Now, I want to pause and ask you all, by show of hands, what do you think? Would the overdose deaths would have declined at all? Anyone? Well, how about 20%? 40%? Even 60? Well, the answer would be as surprising as you might expect. That when he gave the rats plenty of other options like these, the rats dying from drug overdose lowered to almost 0%. 0%. This experiment, ladies and gentlemen, is the proven concept of what I've been talking about so far. The core of how to take beneficial influences in and how to crowd the bad ones out. Harmful influences are like that empty cage, and your brain is simply hardwired to choose the reward of the drug. But when we look at the thousands of different things in our environment, of the tunnels to exercise, of the cheese to eat, it is clear that there are so many different things we can use to influence ourselves and simply crowd out that bad influence. This study is showing what many of us probably have some hard time with, that to cut out these bad influences, all we have to do is replace them with something good and fulfilling. It is quite literally rewiring your brain. So now, taking all this information in, let me draw two futures for you all. The first future is a cycle of harm. You constantly tell yourself that you want to grow, you want to improve, but you still get frustrated by the silly things that keep happening in your life. You keep losing control, trying to grow, but not knowing how to harness yourself and get rid of those distractions. Now, the second future. You already know what influences you, and how to take, what influences you, and what beneficial influences you want to put in your mind. You are no longer distracted by the annoying things that keep happening in your life, asking, do I really want this influence to define who I am? Instead, you focus on cultivating the beneficial influences in your life, not focusing on the annoying things, trying to cultivate them with your passions and your interests, transforming them into tools that you can use. You are no longer controlled by your everyday influences. Instead, you are using those influences to help you succeed and thrive. Let's bring it all full circle with the quote at the beginning of the speech. Enjoy the little things in life. For one day, you may look back and realize they were the big things. As you enjoy the rest of your evening, I want you to think about what this quote and what this speech represents. The simple things in life seem so tiny, seem so irrelevant, but actually have huge potential to help us all grow into who we want to be. All you have to do is grasp the chance, as early as tonight, to analyze what influences you and transform those small things into your life into the big things that matter. And with that, thank you all and have a great evening.